What's up, everybody? Welcome to Que Golazo Weekend Recap. Even Stevens in the Milan Derby. David Moyes hammers the haters. More managerial musical chairs, and the misery continues for Manchester United and Barcelona. I'm here with Jimmy Conrad, the one and only Jimmy Conrad, to discuss it all, including MLS Decision Day. Que Golazo Weekend Recap begins right now. Hey, everybody, welcome to Que Golazo, our weekend recap. Thank you so much for being part of the family. If you're watching live on YouTube, I can't emphasize this enough. Jimmy, do you have your mic on? Do you have your little vuvuzela on?
What do you want me to say?
Just say it, please. Like our YouTube page and make those comments and questions. We need the engagement.
And then hit subscribe. And then tell us what's on your mind, everybody, okay? And don't be... You don't have to be polite. Just give us your hottest takes, okay? That's what we're looking for. And if you're listening to this after the fact, hit us up on Twitter and do the same.
Beautiful, Jimmy Conrad. Please, like Jimmy said, share your thoughts, ask a question, give us a comment, get things off your chest. Get things off your chest. You have a Newcastle fan here. You have an Aston Villa fan here. Please tell us what you think. And Des Norris, our producer, will throw the best comments on screen. Even if we can't read your comments, they will be on the screen for everybody to see. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star rating and review. Spotify, Stitcher, CBS Sports, and your CBS Sports app. So welcome to Que Golazo Weekend Recap. Jimmy Conrad, my brother, how are you?
I am great because there's a lot to talk about, and I'm excited to kind of dig into some of the big topics. And you know what? I'm going to throw the first question to you, LME. I'm not going to wait this time around. Hakan Çalhanoğlu scored a penalty for Inter Milan today after spending 4 or 5 years with AC Milan.
I know where you're going.
The guy did a knee slide.
He did.
And would put his hands to his ears to the fans. From what I understand, he wanted $5 million a year from AC Milan before he made the move, and they wouldn't budge off of 4.
Yeah.
So he wanted 5, got it from Inter Milan, didn't get it from AC Milan, decided to leave. Does that necessarily? I mean, I guess I'm sure he's getting a lot of grief from leaving, so that's probably where this comes from, because they're probably giving him such a hard time. But that seems he could have taken the high road. He decided to not take the high road, and I kind of enjoy it. I love that. I think we need more WWE type theatrics in the game sometimes, really, and kind of lean into the emotion of it just to get the fans all fired up. But there's still a part of me that goes like, that might be a little bit too much. That could be egregious. What do you think?
100%. I'm glad you started with that, Jimmy Conrad. Derby della Madonnina. You were able to watch on Paramount Plus and CBS Sports, by the way. It ended 1-0. It was chaotic. It was entertaining. We thought after the first 25 minutes, it was going to go even worse or better for the neutral, so to speak. But as you mentioned, let me answer your question here. First of all, I remember working for The Guardian way back, and I wanted to write an article about how, you know what? This whole thing about you shouldn't celebrate a goal against your former team. Sometimes I'm like, why not? Because you're kind of disrespecting your current team, right? This one, though, was so funny because he was like pushed a little bit into that slide. And as you mentioned, he got up, he put out his ears like saying, what? Obviously, it has to do with the money that he wasn't getting. He felt he was being disrespected from Rossoneri. And of course, he scores a goal for Inter Milan. I don't know. I'm with you, man. I love the drama. Give me more drama. It was like, that's what happened in the 90s all the time, by the way. So give me some action. What do you think? You agree with me?
Yeah, I can see both sides. I am as a former player. I still have some stuff that resides on my shoulder. I've got this big chip for certain things that happened during my career that have actually been really hard for me to let go. So, he's living in the same city where he wanted to move. He went to the opposing team. So I'm sure he walks around and probably gets a bunch of grief as well, right?
Brave man, right? Brave man.
Yeah, in a lot of different ways, especially because, in this time, these guys are making so much money. It just feels maybe, some fans could be like, well, why is he being so greedy? Why didn't he just stay with our team?
And right.
Yeah. And for Inter's perspective, well, after the whole Christian Eriksen situation, they needed a player like him in their team. So he fit, I think, their model moving forward. And maybe Pioli just didn't want to build around him in some capacity, that he thought he had other players that could do the job. So, there's a lot to unpack there. And, I mean, I could see where it's coming from, but he had a moment to be like, no, I'm cool, and not really. And he decided he chose violence.
He chose violence, and I absolutely loved it. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're an AC Milan fan, what do you think? What do you make of that? situation with Hakan Kanoglu. And if you're an Inter fan, obviously you're going to be, having your own opinion. But what do you think of that moment? If you don't know that moment I'm talking about, please go on CBS Sports Golazo, because they have the highlights right there on Twitter. But let's talk about the actual game here. 1-0. It was very entertaining, chaotic, one could say. I felt the pendulum went one way or the other throughout the whole game, Jimmy Conrad. And then towards the end, maybe AC Milan had some good chances. Zlatan Ibrahimovic, his great free kick. By the way, Mike Maignan being injured obviously was a major issue, but this man came to the rescue. What do you think of the performance of? It's a long ass name, isn't it?
It's a long name, yeah. But he made a save on Lautaro Martinez. I actually thought
Ciprian Tatarusano.
Was that it? Yes, that's right.
What do you think of that? Because he saved Lautaro Martinez's penalty as well.
He did.
Talk to me about the game. Talk to me about the game.
I mean, I thought that Ballatore made a big mistake on that particular penalty. That one felt like an out-and-out penalty. And Boris Lekessier one, he takes a bad touch. It looks like they just get legs tangled. I could see why it was called, but if it wasn't, well, whatever. So I feel like it kind of evened out. The one penalty that was maybe a little bit more questionable got made, and the one that was a straight penalty was missed, and a good save by the goalkeeper. Lautaro's, that I don't know, say the game's done and dusted, because it could just feel like there were more goals in it. And to your point, this game was screaming out for one more person to step up and be a hero. And we've seen it in previous iterations of the Milan Derby, where somebody steps up, and Zlatan has been that guy, or at least last season that he was. And it just, we're talking inches away, right? Or one final pass away from making that happen. But I predicted a 1-1 draw.
You did?
I did. I had a draw in this one, and it kind of played out the way that I thought. A little chippy, as expected, very emotional. A lot of whistles throughout the game, right? And some big time players, that Zlatan in particular, who were just larger than life. So I thought it was a good Milan derby. The first 30 minutes were super exciting, and I thought we were going to see like a 5-4 game, given the pace of how it was going. But it settled down a little bit, and once it hit halftime, I guess once it was starting off so fast, you knew the managers were going to make these nuanced maybe moves to their tactics, and Ballatore ended up coming out in his particular, and Kalulu came in. So there were a couple things that happened that I think shifted to it and maybe slowed it down a bit. But like I said, there were still some opportunities that could have been executed a little bit better. But a draw is a draw, and I think both teams will probably go home relatively satisfied. I mean, Inter maybe a little less because they missed a penalty.
Yeah. It was earlier in the day, Napoli couldn't get 3 points themselves. We're going to talk about it in a second, about some winners in that game, specifically the son of a certain Atleti manager. But, not getting 3 points for AC Milan was probably not as good. Let's have a look at that Serie A table there. There's Norris, as if we can check it out, because a lot of action happened, including, of course, Jose Mourinho, which we'll talk in a second, but we're going to talk about Roma in a second. But I just want a quick glance at the table. Napoli, as I mentioned, couldn't get 3 points. So Milan, neither. Inter, neither. But Atalanta doing their thing. I believe they've scored the most goals this year after Bayern Munich in the entire European continent. What do you make of this top four, even top five?
I'm actually still pleasantly surprised by Napoli. They just aren't giving up a lot on the defensive side of the ball, and that's, for me, hallmark of any team that's going to go on to win a trophy. You can't win anything of consequence without a good defense, a goalkeeper that's making the saves he should make, and then hopefully making a couple cherry on top saves as well. And then you have players up top that are doing the business consistently. Now, it wasn't enough, unfortunately, for them this time around. They ran into the red hot Giovanni Simeone, who gets himself in a good spot and just gets a toe. He's just putting himself in spots to make plays. That's 7 goals in 4 games from him, or the last 3 games. Crazy numbers. And the guy's just red hot, and he's been taking the scalp of all the top teams. So not a big surprise that maybe Napoli didn't get the full points, given how well Verona's been playing. But I really like what Napoli's doing. Lazio, big win at home, 3-0. And then Inter and AC Milan, obviously, with the draw. But lots to play for. And I think the most disappointing would be Roma. But Juve also got a big win. They're not in the top 7 there, which is a bit of a surprise. But Juve getting the 1-0 win to tie Fiorentina on points was a very big deal for them in particular, because they just hadn't been playing very well.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Roma and Jose Mourinho, and most importantly, the great win from Venezia. It was a great 5-goal thriller there. And Atalanta, as we mentioned, wins 2-1 against Cagliari. But today, everybody, we're not just sticking to one league and then whatever. We're going to just jump around, okay? So bear with us. We're trying to go with the biggest topic points. We started with Derby della Madonnina, and now we will go to the Premier League. West Ham United, Jimmy Conrad. They've lost twice in the entire campaign right now, including every competition. They're in the knockout stages of the Europa League, and now they are third in the Premier League table after a fantastic 3-2 win over Liverpool. West Ham fans are probably upset that the international break has now entered, because they can also be the Grim Reaper sometimes when it comes to momentum. But West Ham United, talk to me, Jimmy. What a game, by the way. A great blueprint for the Premier League.
100%. West Ham should be proud of where they are and what they've accomplished and their consistency, I'd say, throughout this whole calendar year. It's been nothing short of impressive, given the fact that they have come from where they've come from. I mean, this is David Moyes' second stint in charge. And I know when he got hired, I have a lot of West Ham friends that are fans of West Ham. That was a tough one for me to say. They were like, David Moyes. It just felt like they were settling for someone that didn't really do very well the first time around. But there's something I think that was unique about it, that he came back feeling different and approaching the job in a different way, and the players maybe accepting him in a different way, and it ended up working out, right? So I'm happy for him in particular. He did a great job at Everton. We used to talk so highly of David Moyes, and then he got kind of plucked by Sir Alex Ferguson to take over, and that didn't go well, and then kind of started him as a meme. But he seems to work his way out of being a meme, LME. Now, what I'll say about this game in particular, though, Alisson didn't look great. Whether you think it's a foul on Ogbonna when he goes up for it, I didn't really see it. I mean, Alisson's a big guy. It's not like he's one of my friends, Nick Rimando, one of the greatest goalkeepers of all time. I love Nick Rimando, but he's like 5'0", and he just had incredible hops and quickness for days. Alisson's a big dude. And so for him, and I know Ogbonna is as well, but it's not easy to like impact him. So for him to not be able to run through that, I felt like was a little interesting. I know Jurgen Klopp afterwards was pretty upset that if he's holding his arm down, how is he supposed to be a goalkeeper? That should be a foul. I think the goalkeepers get protected a lot. So there's some ways, when you look at corner kicks, how do they get given up? Was there some lapse of concentration there? So that's kind of where I always start with set pieces. Could that have been avoided in the first place? Could they've done better? Once they identified that that's how West Ham were going to do their set pieces, can you get an extra defender there to maybe get in between Alisson and Mikel Antonio, who's on the goalkeeper, or Ogbonna, whoever it is, so that Alisson has some room to take a step and jump, right, and have some momentum to do that. There's all these little things that Liverpool could have done. Yeah, it was tricky. It was a little tricky, and obviously it's planned and they well executed, and it was a goal. I just feel like Liverpool kind of shot themselves in the foot today more than West Ham won it. I know West Ham fans are like, come on, just give us some credit. And I do, and I will, because you still have to go out there and score the goals and take advantage of your opportunities, no question. Yeah. But I just felt like Liverpool just weren't as sharp, especially on set pieces. And we've already seen it. We've seen evidence of it with when they were playing AC Milan, when they were playing Brentford, that they do have these lapses in concentration that right now are costing them. That was the first time they've lost in 25 games. So I don't know how much it's costing them, but this could be a good wake-up call. And right before the international break, some guys are going to be gone, whatever. Others can get some rest. And maybe that'll kind of jumpstart them. I'm not too worried about Liverpool. I think they're going to make a deep run in all the competitions they're in. But this is a tough one. Good one. It's very cool for West Ham, though. You to kind of have that. I don't know if they're Leicester City vibe that they're going to go on and win the league.
Jimmy Conrad. I wanted to show some more love for West Ham because I think they know who they are. They are counter. They're reactive. They're physical. Mikel Antonio is a nightmare, but it's not just him. Said Benrahma, of course, and others. And, you began with giving credit to David Moyes, and what a job he has done. Obviously, it's November and it's not over. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. But let me ask you two questions, and I'm asking everybody that's watching two questions too, especially if you're a West Ham fan. Actually, especially if you're not, because I would love to hear the realism from any neutral. But the first one is this, okay? I mentioned 3 points of top. It's November. I get it. Champions League for them? Do you see that? Is that a realistic possibility, a Champions League spot this year?
I think that It's going to really depend on how far they go in the Europa League. I just feel like when you start to get into the middle of the season, especially for Premier League teams, if you're in multiple competitions, you know, you have to, the December window gets really crowded. Then you got FA Cup and maybe League Cup stuff in January. And then right after that starts the knockout rounds for the Europa League. It just becomes a lot. Now, I think that they actually have quite a bit of depth. And if they still had Jesse Lingard, maybe I'd be like, yes, you know, he could be that guy that gives them a spark. That doesn't always have to rely on Mikel Antonio all the time. Or Fornals, I thought was very good today too.
Very good.
Better Ramos. You know, they've had a lot of good players. Guys, I feel like that's what's been cool about them is they're kind of spreading out who steps up and makes the big plays.
It's a very collective. I know it's really cliched, but they're very together. Like they're like a full. Like if one man's not stepping up, the other one's right there to intoxicate. To your point about Liverpool not showing up, is probably a lot of it has to do with the fact that this team is very compact. They know exactly who they are. All right, so it all depends on Europa League then. So
I think a little bit. I think that comes into the equation for sure. Can they do it? I think they can. I mean, they've shown through 11 games so far that they can hang with anybody. They're tied with Manchester City on points and 1 point ahead of Liverpool. Arsenal's kind of hanging around, you know.
Mean Arsenal now. They're not nice anymore. They're mean.
I know.
Wins. Yeah, I like
6 wins and 2 draws in their last 8. I mean, after being at the bottom of the table after the first 3 games of the season is quite impressive for Mikel Arteta. So fair play to him. Manchester United's a bit of a dumpster fire. I think we're going to get a lot of hot and cold with them. They could still go on a run. They have the talent to do so. Tottenham with Antonio Conte. I don't know. We're going to get into all these teams, I know. But, yeah, I guess they're going to hang around. I think top 6 for sure. But top 4 feels like they're going to still need a couple breaks. And I will add, if everybody stays healthy, then, of course, they've got a great shot. And if they don't sell Declan Rice in January or any crazy things like that, then obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see him.
I don't see it either, but I mean, you know, Man United's Man United, and a big offer is a big offer. So, you know.
No, European competition and, of course, staying injury-free is a massive. Well, the second question then kind of already answers itself, but you sometimes put in a good, you're the betting tips man here. Like, is it a cheeky wager to say, listen, we've seen crazier, okay? So before anybody starts bombarding me with comments on YouTube or Twitter, could they win the Premier League?
Well, right now they're plus 5,000 to win the Premier League.
I'm just saying. Leicester City has shown us that anything is possible. I'm just saying.
West Ham to get top 4 is plus 300, which I wouldn't mind putting $10 on that.
I think that's a very
even Arsenal's plus 300 to get top 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. I mean, so what do you think, everybody? Could West Ham earn a Champions League spot at the end of the season? Could they win the Premier League? Unbelievable. But honestly, David Moyes, first Premier League win over Liverpool since September 2006. Unbelievable. Just incredible, the fact that they're now leapfrog the Reds and Jurgen Klopp. And by the way, that Sadio Mane missed an injury time as well is worth mentioning, right?
It is worth. I didn't mention that before, but yeah, Sadio Mane needs to finish that given his experience. And it's almost like he had too much time to, he saw it. There was no pressure on him. His timing of his run was fantastic. Trent Alexander-Arnold dropped an absolute peach of a dime in there. Peach of a ball in there. And
I like peach of a dime too, though.
Yeah, I do too. We're making up new phrases here on Que Golazo, but it's like they tell you to head the ball back where it came from, because that's the goalkeeper is usually shifting over to the side. So if you head it back into that kind of area, it's harder for him to get back to in that particular instance, to his left. So he just had to put it on frame. And I just think he was trying to maybe be too perfect with it. Jurgen Klopp, I mean, that happens. You have guys that go through their spells and they miss chances, but that would have been a nice one. And really, we'd be talking about a much different performance that West Ham kind of blew it. They don't have the mentality to hang with the big boys, or at least hold on to leads. And so it's kind of funny how thin that margin is, that line is between how we're talking about David Moyes and how we would be talking about him if that result had been different.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's fun after the international break. Liverpool host Arsenal. So that should be a very good game. And West Ham travel to Wolves. By the way, we're seeing all these comments. Our producer Des is posting them on our screen. If I don't read every single one, or Jimmy doesn't read every single one, please, we acknowledge them. One of them from our friend Mauricio talking about my Villa. Thank you. We'll get to that in a second. I appreciate you. But let's keep.
Yeah, can I tell you just really quick? You talk about Liverpool, Arsenal. Liverpool are 4th.
12:30 game Eastern.
Their goal difference is plus 20. Okay. Arsenal are 5th. Their goal difference is 0. That's crazy. They're 2 points different, but they're plus 20 goals different. That I think speaks volumes as to.
And Arsenal are 3 points over Manchester United, which is, well, let's talk about Antonio Conte, Rafa Benitez, Everton, Tottenham. This was one I think you also called a draw.
The draw, I did. Straddling the fence worked out for me this week, everybody.
I love it. The imbalance helps with the balance overall. Everton, nothing. Tottenham, nothing. There was a few chaotic moments, but in the end, a point apiece. Talk to me about Antonio Conte's first week in charge. It's just the first week. Do you think he's realized the tremendous mountain that he has to climb with Tottenham now?
I think he's probably understanding the personality of his team collectively and maybe what they're lacking and things that he couldn't see from the outside or from watching the All or Nothing documentary, which he referenced, by the way, that he watched to get to know the players better. They still didn't get any shots on goal, which not too surprising given the way that we know Rafa Benitez likes to set up very, very dense blocks of lines in front of the back four or on top of the box. But you still have Harry Kane out there. You still have Heung-min Son. You still have very talented Lucas Moura out there that should be able to generate a shot on goal. So that, I guess, I know Reguilón missed a crazy opportunity that should have been put away, or at least put on frame. So that was probably their best chance of the game, but it always felt like they only had maybe one or two chances in this one. And I'm going to go back to what I had said in the preview. When Thomas Tuchel took over for Chelsea, the first thing he focused on was, I got to get everything locked down in the back. Like, that's where we're going to start the philosophy and the methodology of what this team is going to look like. And once we get that figured out, I can start to work on everything going forward. And we saw his back three, his patented back three was in. We had Christian Romero, Eric Dyer was in the middle. Ben Davies was a bit of a surprise, I thought, as the left back choice. But then I thought about it some more. You have Davies as your third center back on the left. You got Reguilón, who's also left-sided, and it just helps you kind of pass out of those situations a little bit as opposed to having a right-footed player in that left-back spot. Then Højbjerg and Skip, not a big surprise there. Emerson's your other wing-back, and you got Moura, Heung-min Son, and Kane. I think we were pretty spot on. If we had mentioned the lineup in the preview, we were pretty close to what we saw. So I actually wasn't surprised by the result. I knew it was going to be a tough game. He's going to make Spurs very hard to break down and to beat. But where they're really lacking at the moment is, and this is going to be his biggest challenge, to your point, is kind of reinvigorating Harry Kane to be dangerous. You know, Jose Mourinho, will love him or hate him. I mean, he still was getting that guy to score and hit goals. And Heung-min Son, you know, they were still doing something on the counterattack, which made them lethal and made them unpredictable. Even though you knew it was coming, you couldn't stop them, you know?
There were chances for sure, because, yes, to your point, defensively is where the focus is. But, you know, Tottenham had more possession. They had more passes. Their pass accuracy was okay. Everton's was where they had more shots. So it's really about entering that final third. And to your point, making sure that Harry Kane and Heung-min Son, who did have a very good chance towards the end of that game, that it went wide from the right-hand side and went bottom left. So, but, you know, it will come. It's just 1 week. And at the end of the day, to your point, the most important thing, do not concede, do not drop points. And I guess a point against Everton away at Goodison Park helps them. By the way,
do you see the penalty the penalty that got called back?
Oh, that's right.
That's a big call. He does, I think, get the ball first. It was, and he got there first. But what I loved actually was that Goodison Park was going absolutely nuts after he took that penalty back, and that next 15 to 20 minutes is why I love the Premier League in particular. Like, it was insane. Guys were flying all over the place. It was so highly charged,
chaotic,
emotionally.
Tense, emotional.
My God, it was unreal. And you have to think Rafa Benitez and Antonio Conte were like, this is why I love being a manager. You know, these are the moments, like, everything's riding on it. Everybody's at peak emotion. And who can keep it together the most? Who can stay sensible and still make plays and not lose their minds and get a red card or whatever? We saw Holgate get a red card anyway. But I love that. I love when games get a little bit chippy. And I thought that next 15, 20 minutes was awesome. And that's the kind of games I like to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And listen, overall, Antonio Conte's first week, you get a win in Europe and the Conference League. I'm sorry, I did the Heath Pierce mistake. And you get a point in the Premier League, then an international break to work more with your team, and then we'll see what happens. By the way, smash that like button for YouTube. Que golazo. Comment, subscribe, bring in those questions and those comments. We love to hear from you. By the way, Ilyas, our biggest fan from Somalia, by the way, says hello. Jimmy and I say hello. Ilyas, thank you so much for joining, and everybody else. Our colleague Mike Meredith, by the way, who does amazing work here, he says he's a Tottenham fan, big time. He's saying, thank you, Jimmy and LME, for being so nice to my Tottenham. I was like, it's the first, we've been so cruel for so many months. Like,
really quick though, I mean, they have a manageable schedule coming out of the international break. They have Leeds, they travel away to Mura in the Conference League. They got Burnley, Brentford, and Norwich. So very doable, and a great opportunity to kind of break the slump, at least attacking wise, for some of their players. I'm looking at you, Harry Kane. So we'll see how it all plays out.
Very good point. A good schedule after the international break. That's Norris. Let's see that Premier League table as we discuss the rest of the action. By the way, Burnley got a point against Chelsea. Very good in that one as well.
Chelsea missed so many opportunities.
They did.
They missed so many chances. Yeah.
But unbelievable. I mean, whenever you can get anything out of Chelsea, especially at Stamford Bridge as well.
Yeah.
Man City remains second, by the way, but they won against Manchester United in that derby. Liverpool lost to West Ham. West Ham above Liverpool now. Arsenal. Let's talk about
Manchester Derby. You want to talk about the Manchester Derby?
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about the Derby in a later bit. Manchester. We're going to do a losers of the weekends, and Manchester United is going to.
Got it.
But actually, talk to me about Man City in this game.
I thought that was a good professional performance. Frankly, Kevin De Bruyne in the false 9 spot, floating around. I was not surprised to see a back 3, but I don't think it works without Varane. Frankly. And when you have Lindelof and Bailly, I just think you're taking risks with players that do have lapses from time to time, or will make that one big mistake that you can pounce on. And obviously Bailly scores the own goal, quality own goal, by the way, side netting. You got to respect that. Also, I love Eric Bailly so much that he tweeted out, I don't know if you saw his tweet after the game, of his own goal. And he said, I got to keep my head up, got to do better next time. Or I'm paraphrasing here, but he had like 2 photos of like him hitting it from like this angle, and then like it going in the back of the net. He's definitely owning it, but I don't think I've ever seen anybody like celebrate their own goal, like throw up photos. Super funny. So fair play to Eric Bailly, but that was always going to be a big risk. And I don't think this team is necessarily set up to play that. And if you give Pep Guardiola a week to prepare for you and your new formation, he's going to crush you. Now, if you had like surprised him with the back 3, then you hadn't rolled it out against Spurs and Atalanta for a little bit, then maybe you could have caught City there with that formation change. But because they've already seen it for a week, and because it's not Varane, it's Bailly and Lindelof, I just think that was going to be a tall order. You got Greenwood starting instead of Cavani, who he likes to pick up the ball a little bit wider and come in. Was there anybody up there that was really going to stretch the defense? I think Ronaldo needs that. He needs somebody that's actually going to run those channels. Cavani's more of a proper number. I love Greenwood. I don't want anybody to think this is Greenwood slander. But I think Cavani will run those thankless runs into the channel, which opens up that space for Ronaldo to kind of pick his spots as to either join off of his shoulder or to drop into midfield and go pick it up. Greenwood is a little bit more from like a outside to in type player, and he's very good at it, but I don't think maybe that was the right partnership. So it's interesting times here for a lot of people at Manchester United. But with regard to Man City, super, super good performance. Once they went up 2-0, they just locked it down. They sat back and tried to go ahead, United, try to make the game. We don't think you can, because we're gonna stack our 2 lines. We're just gonna kill any kind of momentum. Because the way that United really hurt you is on counterattacks, especially under Ole Gunnar. And they just said we're not even gonna stretch ourselves out to make that happen.
None of that.
Super professional performance from them, and they're so disciplined, right? They're so disciplined that once they went up 2-0, the game was over.
Defensive transition was excellent. Bernardo Silva was up for it, by the way. 16 shots, 5 on target, 68% possession, nearly 900 passes. Man City doing their thing. We're going to go back. We're going to return to Manchester United. We're going to do losers after the break. We're going to do losers of the weekend. But before the break, we're going to do a little coaching managerial carousel. There's been a lot of action, by the way, not just in the Premier League, but in Europe in general. But we're going to begin in the Premier League. We're going to just discuss a little bit. First of all, I'm going to ask Jimmy about Newcastle. He's going to ask me about Villa. But let's begin with Newcastle. Got a point against Brighton. Eddie Howe was watching, by the way. And after the international break, Jimmy Conrad, he's got Brentford, Arsenal, Norwich, and Burnley. Talk to me about Eddie Howe, this international break, Newcastle, what you saw from Brighton, I guess, but really more importantly, after the international break and how things really need to now be sped up.
For Brighton, really quick on them, they have to be kicking themselves not to get the full 3 points against a Newcastle team that is as vulnerable as they are, especially at home, and then having a 1-0 lead and giving up that lead. Now, fair play, though, to Newcastle for kind of going after it in the second half. I thought the first half was, I was like, I don't know if I want to watch these guys anymore. I don't care if Eddie Howe's coming in. I don't care if we have new owners. We're terrible. But the second half was a little bit more. There was something, a little spark there that they needed. And whether it was Graham Jones or Eddie Howe giving messages to Graham Jones, I don't know. But we scored our one goal on our one shot throughout the whole 90 minutes. So I'm happy about those numbers. That's a good stat, scoring all your goals on all your shots. But yeah, I think he's got some work to do. But Eddie Howe has a track record with Bournemouth of knowing how to manage these situations, getting more out of less. And that's where we are right now. And I don't think it's on necessarily the attacking side of the ball. When Callum Wilson plays, you got ASM, Alain Saint-Maximin, you got Almiron. Shelby can be a deep line playmaker. I think if you put him in the right spots to make that happen, it's our back line, man. And maybe even the how we're pressing as a group. So there's a lot of issues that I have that I think Eddie Howe now has probably done more than enough homework on. And I'm hopeful that he can help us find that balance of not being so defensive. We actually go forward and maybe play a little higher up the field. It does tend to lead to some exciting stuff. So I think as a Newcastle fan, I'd like to see that. But I'm excited for the appointment of Eddie Howe. I think it's a sensible choice. It's not sexy by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think we need that right now. We need somebody sexy in about 2 years when Eddie Howe can kind of right the ship and maybe sign one or two players. My big question for Newcastle, and I'm curious about what you think about this, LME, and everybody else listening and watching.
Yeah, drop a comment, everybody. Go ahead.
Yeah. Who do you think is going to be the first player that Newcastle sign? That first domino that's going to fall. If I remember correctly, it was Man City signed Robinho. It was kind of like their big, once they got the oil money, that was their big first signing. It was like, oh, we got Robinho, everybody. Who else wants to come join the party? And then slowly from there, they started to sign, other guys. And all of a sudden their squad got pretty good. And they started to sell people.
So who's the big
overall.
first wrapped present in January is what you're saying?
Well, I don't know about January is going to be tough, but I think you could probably go try to get those.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe there are players like an Aaron Ramsey, whatever you think about Aaron Ramsey, but like players that are on the outs, Donny van de Beek from Manchester United, like players that aren't getting Jesse Lingard, that aren't getting maybe the love that they deserve or the opportunity they deserve. And maybe you try to go handpick a few of those players, and in the summer you splash. I heard that Mark ter Stegen from Barcelona might be available. I don't know if that's due to finances and they just got to unload him, but I would happily take Mark ter Stegen over at Newcastle, and he'd be used to it because they give up a ton of chances at Barcelona as well. So it'd be kind of just a different venue. That's all.
Yeah, well, listen, Alan Shearer was here a few weeks ago, and obviously I think it's echoed, right? You need a spine, right? You need to just strength. I mean, you need strength in everywhere, but you need a spine. It would be two things. One, players that don't mind not being in Europe the following season, right? Mm-hmm. And the other one is, then in that case, you have to really expand and strengthen your scouting network, because that's when you can go to places like South America, perhaps, in the Argentinian league, the Brazilian league, and maybe find a star that can really just bolt up. But to your point, also add players on the outs that know the Premier League. So that's the tough part as well.
I mean, honestly, we should go sign Alexander Mitrovic because he's absolutely.
I was literally gonna say somebody like that.
That guy's crushing it. He's like a championship player, maybe, because he's got 20 goals so far in the league. It's crazy at 17 games or whatever.
Alternatively, as well, teams in the Premier League that really have nothing to play for the following season, but are stars, right? So
also, Spike says Dusan Vlahovic. I would 1,000% take him, and they should pay like 20 to 30 million over what Fiorentina asks to make sure we secure him.
Well,
but this is my issue. I want to talk about your issue as an Aston Villa fan. Have you dried your tears about Dean Smith getting fired? I mean, he lost 5 straight games, so I understand why it was coming, but it feels pretty harsh given how much he gave to the club.
Yeah, this is difficult for me. I've been a lifelong Aston Villa fan. I don't think that his exit has hurt me as much as when Brian Little left way back in the day, for a few reasons. One, every Villa fan knows just how much Dean Smith loved the club. He's a lifelong fan. He will not stop doing that. His father was a steward at Villa Park, would walk Sir Doug Ellis to his seat. Like, there's just so much emotional, personal connection to the club. So there's that part of it. The other part is what you just said, just the realization of everything. But we have to remember, this is the man that took over when we were 14th, 15th in the championship. We had a clearer picture because we had new owners, but we didn't have a clear picture. We didn't know where we were going on the pitch. And then came Dean Smith. And his first season, he took us back to the Premier League. And, after avoiding relegation in that first stint and the return of the Premier League, the things that he did last year, right? 7-2 against Liverpool, undefeated against Chelsea, 2 wins over Arsenal. And, if Jack Grealish had not been hurt for the majority of the, towards the turn of the year, who knows? Maybe we could have gone Europe. Who knows? But the reality is 5 straight losses, but not just that, but it's the manner in which we have lost those games. It's been unidentifiable.
The Wolves game killed you. Up 2-0 with 10 minutes left and
10 minutes to go. But it's also the way that we played against Tottenham and, and Arsenal as well, overwhelmed in every single way. And even this game just now against Southampton, where the first 45 minutes is like, you needed a halftime break for that wake up. So and also we've got the most losses in the Premier League, right, joint this year, more than Newcastle, Jimmy Conrad. So there are reasons for this that has happened, but it broke my heart because I just know how much this man has done for the club and what he means to the club. So right now it's a very difficult job for Johan Lange and Christian Purslow to find out. Apparently, reportedly, the ambition is high for the next manager that comes in. We're talking Steven Gerrard, maybe. Exactly. So that to me is the thing. And that's the argument that I was posing to every single Villa fan. I was like, you want Dean Smith out, right? But who's the person that's going to come in? So that's going to be the biggest question mark for me. But make no mistake about it, it has really shook me, his exit. And, I wish him all the best and his family. But that's pretty much it, really.
I mean, Jack Grealish, obviously super important, but you brought in Buendia, who obviously showed what he could do with Norwich. You got in Leon Bailey from Bayer Leverkusen, who we all agree is a good player. You got Danny Ings for a pretty decent price, 32 mil. Ashley Young comes in. You got Twanzebe that comes in. I feel like you brought in some players.
I know, but remember something.
That can play.
There's been one game, not even that one game, where we've had almost 100% of a fit squad. Danny Ings, Buendia, Leon Bailey have never played together on the pitch. It's always been an injury situation there and then. So that's a problem. I'm not trying to do an excuse for Dean Smith, but
that's
when
just the facts. You're just saying the facts.
And when Jack Grealish leaves, by the way, right, for this amount and the summer that it was or whatever, right, the most talented Aston Villa player of our generation, who demanded 95% of tactics, because everything pretty much went to him. The moment he goes, you begin with a blank canvas. Mm-hmm. You have to start all over again. And so that's the other part of it. It's a really tough decision. I wish him all the best.
What do you think about, quickly, before we get to the other managers, John Terry? Do you think him not being on the coaching staff made a difference this season?
Yeah, massively. He did a lot all the way from the championship, specifically at the back. Honestly, I know it's a cliche because he's obviously one of the best center backs the Premier League and England has ever seen, but he did a lot at the back to make sure that Konza, Tyrone Mings worked together, helped House as well. So yeah, absolutely. That definitely is an issue. And, we're going to see what happens. All right, we're going to move on here. But Daniel Farke, by the way, got fired after his first win. Seems a little mean, doesn't it? And Andrei Yeah, go ahead.
Predetermined about Farke, but yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. The decision was already done before. Yeah, no, absolutely. It just, in today's digital and social media, it's funny that it happened right after that win. But there was already a decision to it, of course. But Andrei Shevchenko is now Genoa's new manager. What do you think of that?
I like it. I thought he did really well with Ukraine. Surprisingly, sometimes when you have a manager with his playing experience, it doesn't always translate. Sometimes we've seen it with Diego Armando Maradona. We've seen it with, and I love that. I watched that Maradona documentary, and now I always want to say it's Diego Armando.
Yeah, you got to see the whole thing, baby.
I have to. I can't go back now after watching that. And then we've seen it with Thierry Henry. I guess is a recent example of being such a genius at the game. Now I don't know if Shevchenko was considered that, but he's won a Ballon d'Or, and he was a tremendous striker for many years. But I actually thought he was pleasantly very good as a manager for Ukraine, got them to the quarterfinals for the first time in their history in the Euros this past summer. And I think he might have that ability to get a lot out of a team that maybe doesn't have a lot of it. He's getting a lot out of a lot less, let's say, talent. Or maybe Ukraine's sleeping on a lot of talent. There's two things there. But going to Genoa, yeah, they're right on top of the relegation zone. Only 1 win out of 12 games. They needed to make a change. They have American owners, so that's interesting to see. Right. They go with Shevchenko. I'm excited to see how he does. Frankly, it's not easy to come in mid-season, but we have seen some managers in the past turn that into some great success. Most recently with Thomas Tuchel, I think stands out. But yes, I think this is a great hire. And sometimes the big names want to start right at the top. And I actually like that he's taking a Genoa to really kind of build out his CV. Yes, there's pressure. Obviously, they don't want to get relegated, but he doesn't have to get top 4 or top 6. He just have to stay. At this point, they just want to stay up. So he gets him to stay up, and then maybe he can take those steps. And if he does really well, then maybe he can get one of the top clubs moving forward.
December 1st, Jimmy Conrad, Genoa against AC Milan. So that should be an intriguing matchup. Right?
They got Roma. They got Roma his first game.
So that's even better, right? Yeah. Jose Mourinho. We're going to talk about Roma actually after the break. We're going to take a quick break right now, but if you're listening to this on podcast form, it's a little break, but on YouTube Live, we're going to keep on rolling. Giggle Lasso, Jimmy Conrad, Weekend Recap. We'll be right back. Hey, everybody. Told you we would be back straight away, and we are. Let's keep going here. Let's do first the losers of the weekend. There's Norris. I know that we're going to talk Real Betis Sevilla, but we'll talk about losers of the weekend. Well, yeah, actually, and in turn, we're talking about La Liga as well, because we're going to talk about the teams that really have disappointed, especially this weekend. Barcelona, they were 3-0 up, Jimmy Conrad. They were looking good. And then, as you said, Iago Aspas, Celta Vigo. My God, amazing scenes from Celta Vigo's perspective, but Barcelona broke down. By the way, injuries for Ansu Fati, Eric Garcia, Nico.
Ansu Fati's out 4 to 6 weeks. Ousmane Dembele, he's definitely a loser, maybe of the season. Dude, he played 5 minutes against Dynamo Kiev in the Champions League, and now he's hurt for a significant amount of time again. Like, what is going on with that dude?
Xavi has his work cut out for him.
He really does. He really does.
So what do you think? What happens now? I mean, Ansu Fati out for 4 weeks?
Yeah, that hurts them. He scored a tremendous first goal in this game that I think really speaks to his quality. He scored midweek as well against Dynamo Kiev, who hadn't lost a game at home all season. So, he's special. He's a special player. That's the best way to say it. But he's got to get healthy. Their young players have to get healthy. I'm talking about Pedri and now talking about Eric Garcia. Everybody, Ousmane Dembele, they all have to get healthy for Xavi to really be able to build something of consequence. And so, yeah, it's been a heartbreak right now for Barcelona. Leaving the injuries aside, giving up a 3-goal lead is frankly unacceptable. That said, I do want to say for the record that one of my bets was Iago Aspas scoring anytime because the guy loves scoring against Barcelona.
You did. You did.
He scored twice.
I keep telling people to listen to Jimmy. I told my wife, and she's like, "What are you talking?" I was like, "Just listen to Jimmy." And she's like, "Okay."
I don't hit all of them, but there are times where I'm like on fire, though. Yeah, this weekend
you hit a lot.
A ton.
All right. So
I don't know. It's just like, are they a team that, like a Barcelona team? When I think about the past, going up 3-0, they would have done exactly in the past what Man City did against Man United.
Correct.
They get it. Game's done. 2-0, 3-0, over. They're just going to pass the ball and kill you to death, and you're going to get so tired chasing them you don't even want to play anymore.
It's almost like they knew that Celta Vigo was going to do this. They put it in their heads at halftime. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and Ter Stegen didn't look very good in this game. He hasn't been as consistently good for a long time. We were comparing him or calling him one of the top goalkeepers in the world because he was saving Barcelona like game in and game out, and Oblak were like him, and then Neuer when he's healthy, obviously, like those are the guys they're thinking about. And now I feel like he's had a bit of a drop off, but I guess you can only be shelled for so long before your head goes down.
Well, you Newcastle, right? Maybe it'll be a good start.
Yeah, maybe, but it's interesting. I didn't think the back line looked too sharp. I feel like Barcelona lacks that killer instinct, and I think teams know it. And I think Celta Vigo knows if we just get one, that could turn into 2, could turn into 3. And so I was not surprised that they gave up a 3-goal lead. I was actually more surprised that Atletico Madrid gave up their 2-goal lead in injury time to tie 3-3 when they're up over Valencia 3-1. Because I feel like Diego Simeone just has a team that knows better. Whereas
Well,
Barcelona, I kind
they're
of
also in
expected
our
that.
losers of the weekend. Atleti is also part of that. Who else is in here as well? Manchester United, we said we'll come back to them. By the way, they were booed again at Old Trafford as well. 4 touches in Man City's box, etc. We talked about Manchester United earlier, but very quickly. I mean, what's going on? I mean, what? I mean, the international break. Okay, press the reset button, but we know exactly what's going to happen if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer remains. No.
Yeah, I feel like a broken record because even though he does have that one result to kind of hang his hat on from time to time, like the 3-0 win over Spurs, and you're like, I just feel like that result was a bit of a mirage. It was a bit of a one of those magic tricks that Ole was pulling because the back three, their team isn't set up for that. And they tried to pull it off against Atalanta and City. It didn't work. He switched to a back 4 in the second half against City. And they've gone as far as they can go with Ole. I think that's it.
That second goal, when they just allowed the ball to just creep in, it wasn't De Gea's fault. It was just Luke Shaw's just watching. Like, it's unbelievable, some of the things that are going on. I mean, I just don't know where to go. Juan,
I would say, I don't know. I mean,
City fan here, he enjoyed that. Of course you enjoy that. You're a City fan. You enjoy every weekend.
I would say that De Gea kind of had the performance that he did against Leicester. And Ole Gunnar said after the last Leicester game when they lost 4-2, when it was 2-2, Rashford scored to make it 2-2. You think they'd lock it down and set up shop? They gave up 2 more goals in the last 6 or 7 minutes to lose that 4-2. De Gea was their man of the match. He was so good in that game. He was man of the match. I mean, he was standing on his head making crazy saves. Yes, he could have done better.
Which says a lot about
exactly.
That.
Exactly. So
all right.
I just think you have a lot of drop off from players, and maybe the guys that played throughout the summer with the Euros, England, Luke Shaw, Maguire just haven't looked as sharp. Lindelof and Bailly for me are still like not Manchester United players when you think about it. You know, like you want to see Vidic and Ferdinand. You know, you got guys that just lock it down. And those guys aren't the ones, I think, that have that same type of presence. But I don't know, man. There's a lot to unpack there.
Well, listen, we have a lot to still keep going, and I want to keep it very brief here. But this is a very quick answer from this question, by the way. Have Manchester United regressed under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Jimmy Conrad?
No, because every time we think they've regressed, they have a big performance. I don't think they have. I think this is just as good as it's going to get, and that might be hard for fans to accept.
The best and worst thing is the ultimate fate for Manchester United. Sir Alex Ferguson gave you so much that everybody right now is trying to still get rid of that cloud, and it's not happening. So to your point, it's not necessarily a regression. It's just flat. It's a flat line. Speaking of Manchester United, a former Manchester United manager, Jose Mourinho, Roma, your team in Serie A, Jimmy Conrad, last 7 games in Serie A, 2 wins, 1 draw, 4 losses. Here's a quote from Jose Mourinho. Desnars, do you have the quote for me to put up on the screen? Do I need to read the whole thing? It's a big one.
Yeah. Wait, I don't want you to just read it. Read it like Mourinho.
Okay.
I want your best acting skills here. Get after it.
Well, as a coach, the opinion I always have is that you need to impart a bit of ambition and motivation to the squad. You have, not just for the players, but for myself too. So saying that top 4 is a target to fight for us does not necessarily mean the squad is a top 4 squad. I never said that we're worthy of the top 4. But I will continue to say, up until the point that is mathematically impossible, that the top 4 is the target we're fighting for. But for a few reasons, we have finished 6 and 7 in the last few seasons. Well, the business we did this summer, in my opinion, and in the opinion of us internally, was business done reacting to events with the aim of strengthening the squad. Well, we had to go. I don't think this squad is better than last season. We lost experienced players and useful squad players. Thank you very much. And that's Mourinho.
I love it.
Talk to me about Roma. The honeymoon's over.
Oh, yeah, 100%. You know, like I had mentioned before, I'm pretty sure in a previous podcast, where you just need someone in that locker room that can kind of cut through the BS of Mourinho. And he's going to say some things publicly, and you need some leaders to step up. Not only that, off the field and in the changing room, you need guys that are going to step up on the field. And I'm looking at it defensively. They just leak way too many goals, and goals that can be relative. I mean, that must frustrate him the most. It's just like, why are we giving up these shitty goals? You know, why aren't we closing the ball down? I'm asking you to go another half yard to close the ball down. I'm having you drop off like a step so you can be in a better position to clear a ball out. That's so frustrating as a coach. And as someone that has some coaching experience, one of the things that I had the hardest time with, and this I'm talking about some of the players I coached in the 4th division here in this country, was that there was this lack of recognition to danger. Like this fire needs to be put out before it even gets started. And I feel like that's not happening enough. And maybe things were going too well to begin the season, that sometimes you get away from doing the little things that gave you that success in the first place because everything's going so great. But once you get away from doing those little things, doing the dirty work that's thankless and nobody really appreciates and you don't get a lot of credit for, and if enough players start to kind of lose that edge of doing that work, this is what you see. And especially on the defensive side of the ball, it's just too easy. Every time why is it that easy to score against players that should know better? And I think I understand where he's coming from, and I share his frustration. Now, I wish he would handle some of his post-game stuff a little bit better, but it wouldn't be Jose Mourinho if he's not throwing out some crap.
Well said, Jimmy Conrad. We have some new viewers, by the way. Make sure that you throw in some comments, questions, smash that like button. We love to hear from you. And the final losers of the weekend, Verona subs, Jimmy Conrad. Daniel Bessel subbed on in the 75th minute, sent off in the 88th. Nikola Kalinic subbed off in the 84th minute, sent off in the 90+3 minute. And then Napoli drew 1-0 against Verona. That's not a good way to impress your manager if you don't want to get sent off. Have you ever been sent off that quickly?
I got sent off in my last national team game. I was captain, and I got 2 yellows in 15 minutes, and I was out. This is my last one. Like, talk about going out in a blaze of glory.
I know, right?
I know. It was sad for a little while, but now I lean into it and I own it because it's kind of funny.
I love you have to own it. It's great. Yeah. All right. From losers of the weekend, very quickly, winner of the weekend. We talked about Giovanni Simeone. You mentioned the number 7 goals in the last 4 matches, the last one against Napoli. I mean, it's going well for Gio Simeone. Christmas is going to be good at the Simeone house. only one half of the table.
Well, maybe. Yeah, exactly. Simeone's been fantastic. It's fun when you have the opportunity, and I'm glad Serie A is on Paramount Plus to be able to watch every single game of the league, but also when a player gets hot, you can go spend some time and see what he's doing well. And this guy is something fierce. I mean, every single game, he's scoring bangers, he's scoring tap-ins. I mean, he's doing the thankless work too, to get in good spots to make something happen. And now he finds himself second in the scoring charts, only 1 goal behind Lazio's Ciro the Hero Immobile. And fair play to Giovanni Simeone. You always wondered, as a player's or a famous player's son, you have all that pressure to have that name on the back of your shirt, but he's been fantastic this season. He deserves full credit for helping Verona be mid-table and being competitive in every single game.
Absolutely. We're going to keep going here because we got a lot more before we say goodbye. But let's stick with players here. Iago Aspas, we mentioned, of course, 9 goals, 3 assists in 14 games. I talked to Iago Aspas a few years ago.
I love him.
He loves Celta Vigo so much. Is there a player in the world, Jimmy Conrad, who matters more for his club than right now Iago Aspas for Celta Vigo?
Well, I would say Francesco Totti all time. That guy just Roma through and through.
He is Roma. Yeah,
he is. Oh, man.
It's tough, right? I mean, they love him, and he loves them in return. Definitely active.
Currently, yeah.
Active, it has to be.
Active for sure. Okay. I mean, maybe somebody, I'm trying to think of somebody on Bayern, maybe.
I just think he literally is that club, and that club is him, and it's amazing, and it annoys me every single time the national team for Spain comes out and he's not on it. He's just so good. He's so good.
He's so good.
So good.
He's probably one of the more underrated players that just fly under the radar, but find ways to score goals. I love Iago Aspas. I have a Celta Vigo jersey just because of Iago Aspas.
I love it, and he plays with a Peruvian, Renato Tapia. Hey, Jesse Marsch is our final winner of the weekend. RB Leipzig wins against Borussia Dortmund. So good for Jesse Marsch, Jimmy Conrad.
It's great for him against Borussia Dortmund in particular. I know that no Erling Haaland in this one, but I got real nervous because they gave up a lead again right after halftime. And Nkunku, who's on something fierce. We're talking about Giovanni Simeone, but Nkunku has been fantastic this season for RB Leipzig. I wonder how much longer he's going to stay at the club if he continues to perform this well.
Well, there's a Newcastle target for you, Jimmy.
Yeah, too. I would take Nkunku in a heartbeat. Imagine him and Alon San-Maximin and Almiron on the field at the same time. Yes, inject that into my veins. But they gave up another goal. There's still there's another team that just give up these really soft goals at times, RB Leipzig. And I know they lost their 2 starting center backs, and I know that matters because it's not easy. To your point about Jack Grealish and Aston Villa, it's not easy just to bring in a whole bunch of good players and then hope they just gel all of a sudden. It takes some time for that to marinate, and it's going to take some time, I think, for these center backs. But thankfully, Nkunku got an assist to Yusuf Poulsen, who's been with RB Leipzig since day one. Got a really cool story there, and he ended up scoring the winner. And it was just nice to see Jesse Marsch get a little bit of that luck. I feel like they've been lacking a little bit of that luck, but I think you create your own luck. And so it was nice for them to really kind of push that in their favor. And it was a big win for him in particular, and for the team, of course. They just need to get on a run. They just seem like they'll win 1 or 2, then they'll lose 1 they shouldn't, or drop points somewhere else that they shouldn't. And hopefully this will, after this international break, allow them to kick on and go on a nice run.
I know, annoying now for them. The international break is here, but hopefully they will keep that momentum and at least the confidence from that victory. All right, we're going to finish with MLS, by the way. As we are chatting and taping, the western side of things are kicking off very soon, but the East is done, Jimmy Conrad. And speaking of Jesse Marsch, some more American love, baby, because, well, first of all, let me give you a little bit of a recap here. The East, Atlanta, Orlando, and the Red Bulls, they clinch. Orlando City wins against Montreal. Daryl DK scored the second one. USA, 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 writes our producer Des Norris. Atlanta United came back from behind, and Atlanta United has been underwhelming. I mean, they got the playoffs, but they better wake up a little bit more in the playoffs, I feel. But Miles Robinson with that goal as well. USA, 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 is our producer Des Norris. And the Red Bulls draw with Nashville. A Nashville side, by the way, that hasn't lost at home at all, but they all clinch. So what do you make of that Eastern Conference now as we look? Can you put up that table, Des Norris?
Yeah, so New England lost to Inter Miami at home. Not a great way to go into the playoffs. They set a record for the most points in the season, so fair play to the Revs. They lost, I mean, in losing to Inter Miami too, never a nice treat, never want to stumble, as I mentioned. New England, though, are still the clear favorites to win the league. They've been excellent, and they rested a few players.
Did they rotate?
Yeah, they did. They rotated today.
So that
it did. Nice to see NYCFC fight back to get a draw against Philadelphia Union. Gideon Zellalam got a red card early in that one. So that's interesting for them in terms of seeding. So now you have Philly playing New York Red Bulls in the first round in Philadelphia. That'll be interesting. Nashville versus Orlando City at Nashville. Nashville, I don't think they lost today. No, they drew 1-1.
They drew. They haven't lost at home.
They haven't lost at home, but they have 8 wins and 9 draws. So they're kind of ripe to at some point lose that. But Gary Smith's doing a nice job there. It's tough to break down. And then you got NYCFC Atlanta, which I think is an incredible matchup between two teams that have some fantastic players.
D game to watch.
For me in the East, Tati Castellanos lost out on the golden boot here because Ola Kamara got 2 goals today from DC United to get 19 goals. So he ends up pipping him. He has 18. But then you got Joseph Martinez for Atlanta. I think Atlanta United fans are going to be a little disappointed because they're probably not going to host a game in the playoffs. And obviously that's a big advantage for Atlanta United, that home field advantage. But yeah, so many great games. Orlando City, nice to see a must-win game against Montreal to book their ticket. They got it done 2-0. Columbus Crew has to be mentioned. They won MLS Cup last year, didn't make the playoffs this time around. That has to go as a big dislike, or I don't know, whatever dislike button you want to hit. It's
disappointing, right?
I mean, you got Zellerayan, who's excellent. He scored again today, a good goal. You got Darlington Nagbe, Jossies. I mean, they just have so many players that it really is unacceptable for them not to have made the playoffs here. DC United, when they won 1 in their last, or 2 out of their last 6, kind of stumbling into this position. All they had to do was get a draw out of one of those losses, and they would have made the playoffs. So, yeah, so close for their young manager Hernan Losada to get them into the playoffs. But yeah, and FC Cincinnati up 1-0 and lost 2-1. They only have 1 home win. Inter Miami actually has more wins in Cincinnati than Cincinnati has at home. Isn't that crazy?
So anyway. Yap Stam is smiling somewhere.
Probably.
I told you it wasn't me. But the West is kicking off, by the way. The West is kicking off. LA Galaxy, Minnesota is a big one, as well as Colorado, LAFC, I feel. But LAFC need a lot. That's why Heath Pierce, by the way, is not with us today, part of the LAFC crew. Anything specific? Sporting KC, Real Salt Lake. Are you looking for anything in particular for the West?
Yeah, I'm looking at the 2 LA teams in particular. LAFC, as you mentioned, have some work to do. Colorado Rapids, sneakily pretty good. They're the 3rd seed. They should stay there unless things go their way. Robin Fraser's done a great job with the team. LAFC, though, Carlos Vela should start this one, so they could get that result. But as you mentioned, they need a couple things. Galaxy Minnesota is a very good game, and Galaxy started super hot, if you remember. Now we'll see if they can finish the season just as hot as they did when they started it. That's the beauty of the MLS playoffs. You just have to get hot at the right time. But those are the two games I'm looking at the most. And then I just want to give a shout out to some of these teams that have locked. Vancouver's been excellent over the last 6 or 7 games to turn things around after firing their coach Mark Dos Santos, who's a friend. So it's sad to see him go, but they've actually played better without him there. So the West is very intriguing to me, and the playoffs should be unbelievable, and I'm looking forward to them starting next week.
Absolutely. MLS playoffs, super, super fun. Very quickly, by the way, Sevilla wins 2-0 against Real Betis. You better watch the goal from Marcos Acuna.
So good.
Screamer. And a Bellerin own goal from Real Betis. So Sevilla win 2-0. So as we say goodbye, this is our final thoughts. Jimmy, Conrad, always a pleasure when it's just me and you, Jim. Any final thoughts before we say goodbye?
Yes, I want to talk about the NWSL. The playoffs started today. You can see all those games on Paramount Plus as well. Chicago Red Stars beat Gotham FC. That was the last ever game for Carly Lloyd in her professional career. She now, so she's out. Chicago, Mallory Pugh scored the goal. Very good goal. So you want to go check out a good goal, check out Mallory Pugh's from Chicago Red Star. And Washington Spirit, North Carolina Courage are playing right now. And then the winners will play the OL Reign or Portland Thorns. This is quarterfinals tonight. So, lots of playoffs happening here in our domestic leagues, and I'm very excited for it.
Yep, and make sure that you follow and listen to our sister attacking third, by the way. Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman do an amazing job.
Amazing.
And they're covering everything from the women's game, including the NWSL. As you mentioned, Jimmy Conrad, you can watch on Paramount Plus and CBS Sports. Jimmy Conrad, always a pleasure, my friend. By the way, Jimmy and Heath, they're going to be going live at 5:15 Eastern on Monday for the USMNT hour. And Jimmy's going to have a few things to take off his chest, by the way, because, there's just, and I'm with you, Jim. There's a lot of chatter right now. Jimmy's going to put some things straight. So I want you to tune into this. But anyway, regardless, the next week coming up, we've got Fabrizio Romano, etc., and some really cool interviews coming up you don't want to miss. But Jimmy and Heath are going to guide us through with some guests as the USMNT return to face Mexico and then Jamaica as well. But there's a lot of great USMNT CONCACAF content, Jimmy, right? Yeah, you excited
turn
for
on
that?
Turn on your notifications after you hit subscribe, and that way you won't miss any of the good stuff. That's what LME is trying to say. I'm just giving you a shortcut to make that happen. Thank you guys so much. We love you.
We love you. That is it. Please keep on watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Follow Que Golazo Podcast on Twitter, Que Golazo Pod. Subscribe to the Que Golazo page on YouTube and hit that notification bell, like Jimmy said. And of course, subscribe to Que Golazo wherever you get your pods. Jimmy Conrad, thank you, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great, great rest of your evening, and we'll see you next time.